Hello, hello, how we doing? I hope everybody's really good and minding yourselves. So I just wanted to come on to talk about two really important broadcasts that have gone out over the past 2 days, one after the other. So a pivotal moment, I would say, in trying to get the word out. And my God, we've been trying for so many years. And sometimes we have these moments. I say the first moment was Dr. Mike Eden and that broadcast he did with Oracle Films, set up by Fiona Rose Diamond. And it was very powerful. He was saying some really incredible stuff. And again, it has the gravitas because of who he is. He's a Pfizer whistleblower because of his scientific knowledge. Even though in general you'd say science schmience, but because he did work for Pfizer, because he worked in the respiratory part, he's a respiratory expert, and he blew the whistle so early. And his voice has been so incredibly powerful. Just to reiterate everything that he's learned and to give us that message with Oracle Films, making it a professional look, and I think having a professional look when doing these broadcasts helps enormously. So I just hope people are going to listen to it, beyond us who know what's happening. It would be wonderful for people who have an inkling now that something's up, things aren't as they should, things are strange, to listen to it without having the barriers up, without having the defenses up. Just listen to it.
There is nowhere in the world that you can find increased frequency of respiratory illness and respiratory deaths anywhere until after the WHO called a pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, they called a pandemic with no evidence of a pandemic because they were lying to you. They were lying to you. Then they created all our governments created the impression of a pandemic by misusing a test that doesn't measure what it says, PCR. There's literally, what we had is a pandemic rollout of the test. It's as simple as that. Increased number of cases everywhere was a pandemic of a rollout of a rubbish test. It's not a mistake. They knew it was rubbish. They designed it to be rubbish. They designed it to produce positives where there was no illness. And then when people died, they said, they had COVID. They literally did that. And then, I'm afraid, medical procedures in care homes and hospitals led to people being killed. But this is old news. You've heard all this before. I just wanted to tell you, you can't have an emergency without some sign of that emergency emerging somewhere. You need that information in order, as a leader, to say, I'm afraid, folks, I've got bad news. There's an emergency coming, batten down the hatches. For these pandemics, they just lied to you. Nothing was happening. If you go and look for it, you'll not find the evidence. They called the pandemic, and then the data started arriving, which was fraudulent. So it's as simple as that.
And then the second broadcast, I'll just pull it up here, went out yesterday. It was Eddie Hobbs and Una McGurk, barrister. And I just thought it was very, very powerful in what they were discussing. And I agreed with most of it, which is very rare for me. Let me see now. There it is. There it is. There's that midazolam peak. The prescriptions for midazolam went up in line with those so-called COVID deaths in April 2020 in the nursing homes. Over 1,000 people were bumped off essentially in the nursing homes with the use of end-of-life drugs, and it went down as COVID-19.
Population that had been injected. So that's very, very many countries. Mm-hmm. And they came to the conclusion that there's no data surge supporting excess deaths from any pathogen, but there's very strong evidence to show that there was excess deaths from the response to the so-called pandemic, and of course the rollout of mRNA vaccines, and particularly that study showed in many places a surge in the deaths in nursing homes, coincidental with the start of it. So there was three areas of causation of that. So there was the suppression at the start.
So I just want to pause it there because that you see, that gets me, because I'm always looking for 3-3. So he said 3-3. What? 3-3. Now, listen, the whole COVID scam was some kind of Freemasonic brotherhood, nudge, nudge, wink, wink thing. All right. So we know that. I mean, we saw it at the time as it was going out. We saw the 3-3. So honestly, when I hear 3-3, I'm like, it might have just been a bit of a stutter, 3-3. But okay, I'm tuning into that. I can't help it. Of course I am, considering the context of the 3-3s.
The nursing home deaths spike, which we can see there in the Irish data, they put the total amount of excess debts globally at 33 million, of which 17 million were temporarily in time correlated to the rollout of mRNA vaccines.
Yes. So just so many three threes there. You'd really wonder how it got to 33 million, the overall excess mortality. Just odd. I just think, something I'm looking out for, peculiar. But I must say, Una McGurk and Eddie Hobbs did an incredible job. This is exactly what the Irish people need to hear. They need to understand what happened, and this is a way to do it. So this is very interesting. You can go on to Eddie Hobbs on YouTube, watch it. It's called Irish Whistleblower Exposes Alleged Corruption by Ireland's Big Pharma with barrister Una McGurk. So Una McGurk is talking us through it, and she does so very eloquently and diplomatically. Okay, so, this is something that can reach Middle Ireland. It has that power, it has that potential, and I would say absolutely share it. Let's just read it here. Una McGurk, Senior Counsel and Masters of International Relations, presents a protected disclosure made by a senior Irish pharmacist under the Protected Disclosures Amendment Act 2022. Okay, it's a new act. The discussion examines how these regulatory bodies allegedly failed in their statutory obligations to protect public health, the lack of carcinogenicity and genotoxicity studies for COVID vaccines, and the concerning pattern of excess deaths in Ireland since January 2021. So this has the potential to blow the whole thing out of the water. So the conversation raises profound questions about informed consent, because we know there wasn't any informed consent, regulatory oversight, yeah, that's the big one, and the potential long-term health consequences of pandemic policies that have resulted in approximately 23,000 excess deaths. And that's Patrick E. Walsh and the crew who have come up with that. And that is a really important figure, 23,000 excess deaths. We've been looking at them. RIP.ie figures, but we've also got the Eurostat figures, all right, that corroborate that Ireland is experiencing these excess deaths since the rollout of these injections that they're calling vaccines. So this is really, really important. Now, the question I have and always have for everything, all right, and I don't think there should be any sacred cows in any of this, especially when somebody's speaking your language. When somebody's speaking your language, you want to just agree and jump on board, and that is the kind of natural instinct. And then to ask any further questions seems like you're being disloyal. But no, that's not the case. I think it's only fair, considering the context of what we have been through over the past 5 years, that we all start getting, you could call it a little bit paranoid. It's not paranoid. If you need to be a bit paranoid, you need to ask critical questions, and that's my agenda. My agenda is to get Irish people up to a certain point of knowledge, and then to encourage critical thinking, to encourage us to ask questions about everybody and everything, and not be afraid to do it, and not to join herds or enter that herd mentality that got us into such trouble in the first place. So my query with this is there an agenda here? And what is the agenda? And is there money behind this? And where is it coming from? Because my big concerns say, I would agree with most things John Waters says. I think he's a beautiful writer, again, very eloquent. But then, he was the guy who was saying that Conor McGregor, is all right. So imagine all that blah, blah, blah to lead us up to Conor McGregor. I mean, what a dud. So, if that's the agenda for, say, John Waters, count me out. I don't care how eloquent the words are. I don't care, if there's beauty in the writing, if that's where it's leading, if that is the agenda, count me out. So that would be my concern there. I'm wondering, is there a Trump element here? I'm concerned as to, where are we going with this? But this interview is so pivotal. It's so crucial. And if this protective disclosure thing comes to something, it has the power to break this omerta, to finally get Irish people finally looking at the genocide that is taking place under our noses, with the collaboration and cooperation of the mainstream media and the politicians. So I think we just have to be aware that it's okay to ask these questions. It's okay to say, I agree with this. This is all very good, but what's the agenda? And to take it a step further. And I think we are within our rights. I just want to pull up an old interview. This was something I did with Mark Atwood. Mark Atwood set it up with Abby Wynne. And when was this? Let me just... Okay. So this went out March 28, 2023. And I see that it was 2 years ago, 17.1k viewers. So that's good. That is good. We need as many people as possible listening to these conversations, contributing to them in the comments. We need to figure this out. It's so monumental. It's so important. But something at the time, and I know Eddie, Eddie's jabbed and all the rest, which is probably a good thing, in many ways, because at least he's going to reach those people who are also injected and regret it, rather than somebody who said no at the beginning and said, this is a fraud, don't go near it. That can sometimes act as a barrier. People think, well, I don't want to talk to you because you're an anti-vaxxer, or you're this or you're that. Whereas somebody who got jabbed and now it probably has a better chance of reaching those who were led under false pretenses into taking part in a very dangerous medical trial that we see is certainly coinciding with all these excess deaths that we are witnessing, that the mainstream media are ignoring, including the politicians. So I just want to play this bit, because this bit, is one of those ones that I'm like, because I'd spoken about RTE and I'd been very clear about it in this discussion about what they'd done and how they had misled the public, including my own family. And I was very, very cross in this, actually. And I stand by it. That's the beauty of so much of this stuff. I stand by it. I can watch it again and say, yeah, I totally meant that. But this is what Eddie had to say. And I had called out Dee Forbes, who is the former Director General of RTE. And I had called out her close relationship with Ted Turner, who was a very open depopulationist, if that's such a word. And he'd spoken openly about depopulation and why we need to depopulate. And he had spouted all sorts of nonsense, science. But look, this is what Eddie had to say.
But I'm going to bring in Eddie, because I know Eddie's going to have a different take on all of this. How you doing, Eddie?
Hi, Mark. So listen, I just to focus, if I could, for a few minutes on RTE and maybe my route into all of this, because it tells the back. Because I was involved as a presenter for RTE over the years, including their blockbuster Rip-Off Republic series, which had the highest non-factual television audiences on the channel. So like RTE is a state-owned broadcaster. I have to say, I know Dee Forbes. I know her personally. She's not the person as described by Aisling, as far as I'd be concerned. She was brought in, there's no doubt about that, in 2016 from Discovery Channel. And she's been the DGRTE throughout the whole process. But this is far bigger than one person or a set of relationships that exist with people that may or may not have agendas. And I'm just careful. I look for evidence-based stuff. And the longer I've been at it, the more evidence keeps coming that that we would have completely dismissed at the start. So like everybody else, when COVID hit in March 2020, I was looking at it purely from an...
Yeah, so that bit, that just jarred at me again. There's a few things that just jar. And I'm like, well, whatever about being pals with Dee Forbes, the fact is she oversaw the COVID scam and the most serious breaches of journalistic ethics that I've ever witnessed, ever. Tricking the Irish public into a dangerous medical trial. It doesn't get more serious than that. So again, it's just question marks, all right? Question marks as to what is this agenda. And I do think we need to I'm going to pull back up my old reports that I did on Dee Forbes and her relationship with Ted Turner. I think it's absolutely relevant to continue to look at it and ask those questions. I'll put it back out again because, of course, when I was writing about all this stuff, nobody's interested. Nobody wants to hear about it. And maybe they do now. I'll try it again. And that's the good thing. Again, you've got all this work set up and ready to go. I just thought there were two very, very important pieces to look at. And fair play to Dr. Mike Yeadon. I have had some correspondence with Mike Yeadon over the years. He's always been very, very helpful. I did a piece on Beaumont Hospital and he added a fantastic comment. We've had a disagreement. I must tell you this. We've disagreed because of his close relationship with James Delingpole. I have had things to say about James Delingpole. I've read his thinly disguised autobiography. I pointed stuff out. I did warn Dr. Mike Yeadon to stay as independent as possible. That broadcast he did with Oracle Films is extraordinary. I think he is the man. I have a lot of time for him. But again, no sacred cows. Because somebody is pivotal and saying incredible stuff, you still have to be careful. We still have to be totally careful about where is it all going, what agendas are in place. Eddie Hobbs did mention RFK Jr. in the piece and kind of tipped his hat to him. And I know RFK Jr., there are question marks over RFK Jr., whether or not he's a Trojan horse, that he has said a lot of good stuff about Fauci. He wrote the book on Fauci, said incredible things about vaccines. Now that he's in office, is he going to just twist the knife? And that's always the concern. I don't entirely trust him. He was talking about wearing some kind of electronic devices. He's now gone into the kind of satanic order speak, and we have to keep asking questions about him too. All right, so all of them. All right, even when they're saying things we agree with. So one more thing now before I go. It's I have it here on the phone. I'm going to look at it on the phone because I can't actually pull it up on this server for some reason. It's on Telegram. So Free Press, back to Free Press. Freepress.e. And you'd wonder, because sometimes the Freemasons do like free something in their title. Might be nothing, might be something, because he's always calling out Freemasons too. But I see you question everything. Question everybody. Now he's questioning me. I don't mind. Question me. I mean, I'm not saying question everybody except me. No, question me too. That's all right. So he's writing here on Telegram. He's saying the people running the Aisling O'Loughlin channel. So the people is me. All right, that's me. It's just one person, nobody else. There is no team. There is no... Well, I can't say there's not an agenda. My agenda is to get the Irish people up to speed. Because I trust the Irish people really and truly. I just think they've been misinformed. So they've been misled, they've been conned. It's happened to all of us at some point, some stage. I have faith in them to recalibrate and to make good decisions and to not join herds and to not be stupid, because I know they're not. So this just, kind of bugs you when I've been doing all this work solo on my own. And because I have that training too. I have the training where I can do the stuff my own. I can edit. I can write my own stuff. I've been doing it for years. Anybody can go back and look at my voice and hear what I have to say. It hasn't changed. My writing style hasn't changed. The way I speak hasn't changed. So there's only one person running my channel. That is me, not with anybody else. Any of us can do it. We're all capable of doing it. I'm trained in it for sure. But, you can do it with your own inimitable style. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. And it's all of value at this stage. So, so he's saying the people running the Aisling O'Loughlin channel because it ain't her. So this is so loose with the truth. It's so annoying, so loose with it. Will probably tell you this is all a coincidence. So it's the above story. It is the surgeon who announced Brigitte Macron's transgender transformation found dead in Paris. Okay, so he's taking that she is a transgender, and that because I'm saying no, she's actually a woman, and this is a psyop. But for Michael, this is the absolute. Now, evidence has been found. She is a man, as far as pretending to be a woman. I don't know why this guy ended up dead. I don't like the Macrons. I'm not trying to cover for the Macrons. I've just been through the transvestigation and I found it wanting, all right? And I've shared the information that I found. I've put it out there. I've said to anybody, have a look. What do you think? Right? It's up on the table. Most people have disagreed with me. Most people are running with the herd on this and they're saying she's a man. Some are even saying she's the father of Emmanuel Macron. I'm saying this is some kind of Freemasonic trick going on here. I don't think we're dealing with very nice people. I mean, I don't know why this guy's ended up dead. I don't believe he suicided himself. But I don't know, all right? So I'm not in on everything. I'm just saying I looked at the transvestigation that Candace Owens did, and I thought this is a load of muck. This is absolute muck. It's not journalistic. It doesn't pass any control system that I would have for what is a proper story, what should go out publicly. And it's incredible the amount of people who call themselves awake who ran with that one because they're listening to blah, 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 Candace Owens and her blather. But if you're really tuning your ear in and saying, well, okay, where's the evidence? All right, that's what I'm looking for. Where's the actual evidence? I can't find it. Now, this surgeon's turned up dead. Does this mean she's a man? I don't think so. Maybe there's something more going on. But if you want to believe that she's a man or that she's the father of Emmanuel Macron, go right ahead. But I'm going to keep my stuff up on the table. And it's up there to be queried for anybody who wants to go over it. Nobody's actually gone over what I've presented. They've just got it into their head. She's a man. And they've believed what millions of people out there are believing and repeating. And I'm saying, well, I'm not. Okay, I'm not going along with it. Go along with it if you want. It's no odds to me. But know where I stand, and it'll be there on the record for anybody who wants to go and have a look at it. And the comments are always open. They've been dead set on covering up the phenomenon of trans men in Irish politics since I fully outed Mary Butler. Mary Butler's a woman. I mean, half my family's from Laois. We've got a load of people from Laois. I mean, I know the Laois crowd. Mary Butler's a woman, all right? Now, she has, I think it's the youngest child who identifies as trans. But Mary Butler's a woman. So he thinks he's outed Mary Butler as a man. It's like, yeah, but she's not, like we have to get the facts right here. She's not. So I'm not going along with it. So this is all stuff, as far as I'm concerned, to make us look daft. I'm personally not going along with it. I'll call it out. I'll say, well, she's not. She's a woman. The youngest identifies as trans. If you want to go pick up that line, but she's a she. An inordinate amount of time has been spent over there trying to occult the blatantly obvious trans situation with Michelle Obama. Again, Michelle Obama, as far as I'm concerned, is a woman. I'm not going along with the millions of people out there calling her a man. I did for a little bit, by the way. I was like, fell for it. And then I thought, no, go look it up. And yeah, there's loads of stuff out there to make us believe that she is a man, but I don't believe it. Okay. Who is Emmanuel Macron's MK Ultra handler? Or Brigitte Macron, he's saying, okay, well, probably they're weird for sure. It's a very strange relationship. I mean, it's total groomer territory, weird as hell. Does that make her a man? I can't see the evidence. If somebody presents me with some good evidence, I will look at it again. There's no reason why. I mean, if she's a man, if she's a woman, doesn't make much odds to me. But if she was a man, it's a massive story. But I think it's a trap. Okay, that's where I'm at. This fundamental control mechanism runs many governments, and it must not be interfered with. If it was true, great. Like, let's uncover it if it's true. That channel, she's talking about me, has really tried to nip these ideas in the bud, but can't have a critical mass. We can't have a critical mass of people becoming aware of this without doubts. Believe what you like. Millions of people already believe it. So I think, for me getting the word out, I have absolutely failed in that. I totally failed in it because everybody went, no, you're wrong. She's a man. I'm like, okay, up to you, lads. Now, elements who control our government, Brit associated, I'm sure, but also simply organised crime and very intelligent people motivated by pure greed and evil, and we can agree with that, must not let this basic control mechanism fall to pieces. The only other mechanism they have is compromat around the killing and sacrifice of children. See, okay, God, okay, right. Jesus, it's really going to get you into trouble there. I'm not going to read that out loud. I mean, I agree. I would say those running the world are pure evil. So, obviously my work over the past few years has proven that too. So I don't know where he's going with this. Of course, that channel, also tried to cover up Parnell Square situation, introducing just enough doubt to keep it simmering. Listen, I mean, we all know something dodgy has gone on in Parnell Square. This is the good thing about putting stuff down on the record. Anybody can go and read my writing at the time. Why are there children stabbed in Parnell Square? And how come the court case keeps getting kicked down? It's like the can that keeps getting kicked down the road. I don't know what's going on. I wasn't there. I was up in Dublin for a gig and I tracked down Anto Boyle for an interview. As you do, that's journalism for you. Asked him what happened. He gave me his views on what happened. He said he saw a stabbed child. I've no reason not to believe him. I'm waiting for the trial to show up. I don't know. There was plenty of things we can talk about. But the thing is, Michael doesn't know either. He's only pretending he knows. He said there was no stabbed children. A load of people are repeating that. I'm saying I actually don't know what happened there, and I'm waiting for this trial to show up. I'll continue to question everything as I normally do, and I tell everybody to question too. Just don't jump to conclusions and be very careful of herd mentality and jump into conclusions. Because one thing I have found since joining this side, let's say, since 2021, is the awakened think they know stuff, and then when I go and investigate it, it's not true. It's not true. Richard D. Hall was one such scenario when I went and investigated and checked what he was pumping out and people were repeating. I said, this is absolute nonsense. This isn't journalism. This isn't correct. And people jumped down my throat and said, what are you saying? How dare you say that? And I isolated it. I put it out there. I said, go and test it. Check for yourself. What do you think of it? Still all up there. It's still all up on the table for anybody who wants to check it out and come back and tell me what they think. And I still haven't had people actually focus on what he has put out. And they're still repeating all sorts of nonsense as a result of that. And I would say picking on the wrong people. And that's counterintelligence for you. It gets you to pick on the wrong people, gets you to look in the wrong direction, gets you to look stupid. So I'm only ever using old school journalistic methods to weed out lies, to weed out untruths. And we have to ask these questions to weed out counterintelligence, because counterintelligence is everywhere. And one thing I have learned over the years is who's left now? Who's left on the scene? Big people with budgets and operations and people with agendas, all right? In 2020, 2021, when all of us were speaking up and talking to each other and being banned and sent off to Telegram and, dealing with what was an existential crisis. A lot of those people have gone quiet. A lot of people still censored and banned. And I'm looking at the scene now and thinking, well, who's left? Who's left? And what agendas have they got? And why are they left? Some people, this is a very dangerous time for humanity. And we do need to discuss things. And it's very important that we get to know who's who and what are they here for. And, say with the nationalist scene, and I ask questions about Andy Quirk and the free flags, like who paid for the flags? So he's saying he paid for the flags. And I'm like, okay, really? Did you really pay for the flags? Bit dodgy. Ezra Levant showing up at all these protests. He's coming all the way up from Canada. Bit odd. Everybody should be asking these questions, lads. This is no big deal. Instead, people jumping down my throat going, how dare you? We need to be unified. No, you need to think. You need to think. And don't unify with somebody who doesn't have your best interests at heart. That's a big one. We need to be unified. Well, with who? Who do we need to be unified with? I'd prefer to be on my own, personally, and just to get the facts right, get the facts straight, keep asking the questions. And we have to come up with ideas that make sure that we're not going to be herded off a cliff. And that is a real possibility. So that means we have to think doubly hard. We collectively, the vax, the unvaxxed, have to, first of all, realize what has happened. That's looking at 2020. Honestly, that is why the Eddie Hobbs, Una McGurk interview is very, very important, because it does show us what happened in 2020. And it is a way of connecting with Middle Ireland. It is a way that we'll be able to say, have a look at this. This protective disclosure case is massive. And it's a way for the mainstream media as well. I mean, the mainstream media are in such a pucker. They have backed themselves into a corner now. And they know that they are only responsible for their own demise. Nobody else apart from themselves and their own bad decision making. And it came down to what caused the death of the mainstream media? Lack of ethics. What caused the death of the doctors? Lack of ethics. It's massive. That's why ethics is so important in a society. But why are the Irish people going for the likes of Conor McGregor? Lack of ethics. It's the same thing. And why do they think that's going to work? Because they've got a lack of ethics. They can't see. They're making excuses. When he turned up the Freemasons, sure, that's normal. You could just rent. No, you can't. You can't just rent it out. Making all excuses. And again, that's why, with John Waters, beautiful writing, absolutely gorgeous. But what, you're going to lead us to Conor McGregor? You're going to lead us to the vaccine daddy? Agendas. What's my agenda? Nobody's paying for anything that I do. I do this, unless you want to buy me a coffee or subscribe. But what I'm doing is because this is an emergency situation, right? My agenda after that, politically, I don't know. But one thing I know for sure is I think the Irish people should not give up their voting rights. Yeah, you could say voting doesn't work. Okay, the two-party system is certainly not working all over the world. But I think if the people relinquish their rights, they are asking for a dictatorship and they're asking for trouble. So hold on to your rights as far as I'm concerned. Hold on to your rights. Get bloody angry at some point. The people out there have been tricked into a medical trial that could kill them and their kids. And so far, no response. So you have to get angry. And then you have to channel that anger, do something about it, and be very, very careful of the agendas. People will tell you things you want to hear right up to the very last minute before they twist the knife in. So very, very careful about, where these agendas are coming from and where are they leading. Get the information, verify the information by all means. But ask the questions to me, ask the questions to everybody, and don't be afraid to ask those questions. Like when I asked Andy Quirk about who bought the flags, everybody jumped on me. I'm like, this is a normal question and everybody should be asking it. Everybody should be asking it. This should be so normal. And until we reach that, I'm going to be happy when the Irish people are at that point where they're questioning everything and everybody, and nobody's, you could say, oh, you're going to be too paranoid. No, not too paranoid, just smart. Just smart. That's all it is. It shouldn't be offensive. And it shouldn't be offensive to ask if somebody's been vaccinated if they died suddenly, and I use the word vaccinated very loosely, but we're in this state of like constant offense. Oh, how dare you, how dare you ask that? And until we get over all of that, until we cop on and stop allowing ourselves getting conned right, left and centre, we are in a very tricky state. But then we've lasted this long, which is pretty good going. And I want us to endure. I want it to be like if my channel closes down, it could do. I'm aware it could close down tomorrow. That there's going to be thousands more ready to roll, as in thousands more ready to ask the questions, ready to look, and that's going to be the case. And that if we can get to that point, we'll be doing very well. And I think we are at a pivotal point. I think Eddie Hobbs and Una McGurk have helped enormously. I think Dr. Mike Eaton has helped enormously. Patrick E. Walsh and the work he's done, all those hard yards over the years, chipping away and getting the word out there and never giving up on the truth. And if we have a love for the truth, which is the objective truth, not the satanic truth. The satanic truth is my truth, your truth. That's just an opinion, No, but the actual objective truth, then we will return to God. It is a return of the love of God. Know the truth and the truth shall set you free. I mean, it's profound. There's a reason he said that. All right, that is it. Sending you lots of love and just wanted to get all of that out there. All right, enjoy your weekend. Take care.